Were George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and Donald Rumsfeld complicit in torture during the George W. Bush administration?
Absolutely, they were. Did they commit war crimes? Absolutely, they did. Was it the first time in American history we tortured people? Absolutely not. We did in the Philippines, we did in Vietnam, but it was the very first time in our history as a entity of Britain or as a national entity that we sanctioned torture of other people at the presidential level. That is to say, we made it national policy to torture people.
And the policy, of course, was never disclosed to the American public. I think Cheney, the vice president, came up with a phrase, correct me if I'm wrong, enhanced interrogation. Those of us who monitor these things from the journalistic and legal end or from the military and policymaking end knew exactly what he was talking about. Did President Bush pardon or immunize the actual torturers? I mean, torture as a war crime, as I believe, Colonel, has no statute of limitations. Those people could still be prosecuted unless somehow they were immunized.
That's true. And that's why if you go and you look at the legislation that was passed, I'm sad to say, under Senator John McCain's aegis, it also had a portion of it. This was the legislation that essentially Powell wanted that got the military out of the torture business where Rumsfeld had put them. It essentially had a get out of jail free card for all those, quote, who had tortured in the past, unquote. So that was the congressional statement that we don't like what you did, but all of you who did it, there'll be no accountability.
Did they give a damn about the concept of human rights, about natural law, about civil liberties, about the first 8 amendments to the Constitution, about the values that underlie everything from the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution itself?
I'm sure they did lip service wise. I heard it enough, but their actions belied that, and their actions actually abrogated a lot of that as far as I'm concerned. And, we really haven't recovered from it. We still have a Senate Intelligence Committee, for example, that will not let the American people look at the full report, 6,000 pages plus, that they did. And since I have seen excerpts of it and I've read the executive summary, I know it's fairly accurate on the CIA's rendition, detention, interrogation program, RDI. And I'll tell you that the American people don't know the extent of what we did, and they're hiding it still.
I read the executive summary as well. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Colonel, that Senator Feinstein of California, against the wishes of President Obama, who was in office at the time, went to the Senate floor and deposited the executive summary in the hopper, which of course immunized her behavior because she can't be prosecuted or sued or reprimanded in any way for what she does on the floor of the Senate because of the speech and debate clause in the Constitution. Is that what we read, the executive summary, or did she put in that hopper all 6,000 pages?
As I understand it, it was the executive summary. It was quite extensive itself, over 500 pages.
Yes.
Let me just make a comment about that wonderful woman. I have a lot of respect for her, and I think she did a fairly good job when she was chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, but she was political, as most of these animals are, and she got the briefings. She knew what was going on. She saw a politically opportune moment to take a different tack. Thank God she did, and this is often what motivates our congresspeople. And so she took that tack and she did some positive things, which came out in the movie called The Report, which you may have seen, which is relatively accurate, except for that one dimension. She knew what was going on before she actually took action to do something about it.
Could she have stopped it in some way?
That's a pretty powerful committee. If that committee were to stand up, even in its chairmanship alone, but in a majority fashion, at least say half the committee and the chairman, and say to the president, this has got to stop, it would probably stop.